what's going on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, and everywhere else that we're live on right now. This is episode 47, What is Love? And today we're going to talk about marriage. And we got some special guests here, right? Experts in marriage. We got Troy Ritchie, who spits fire, and Melissa. And so, super excited. So, why don't you guys start by introducing yourself? Whoever wants to go first.
Melissa, go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Hi, I'm Melissa Wolak, and I'm a coach, a speaker, and a mom, a wife, also a cognitive communication therapist. And, I help people make deeper, kinder connections with themselves and their loved ones so that they can experience more joy and focus on their purpose and enjoy life more.
Cool.
I'm thrilled to be here. This is going to be a fun conversation.
Awesome. I'm Troy Ritchie, and I do a lot of stuff with my partner, my wife of 21 years, Lindsay. So was honored to be considered. I'm going to give my opinions on things, and just from experience and books I've read, I guess.
Awesome. So pretty much there's no right or wrong, right? Tonight it's just an episode where, hey, we want to share with our audience our experience with marriage, and we want our audience to interact and engage with us. We go have some fun tonight. So let's start with the very first question, right? How long have you been married? And Troy already told us 21 years, correct?
In May, it'll be 21 years, yes.
Okay. So
Wow.
so pretty much how you met your wife.
She was a groupie that used to date our drummer. And when we first met, we were doing a show, and she came up and she wanted to book the band. So she told her ex-boyfriend, our drummer, hey, I want to book the band. And then left me, I think it was a voicemail. This is before caller ID and so forth, and just didn't leave her phone number. And so we got to know each other by her booking the band. Really? Yeah.
Oh, wow.
That is awesome.
I married
What
a groupie.
kind of band?
Rock and roll.
Okay. Like, wait a minute. Curious.
Yeah.
Whoa.
That's all
And you are the lead. You're the lead singer, or
lead
you
singer.
didn't mention yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Cool.
Yes.
Awesome.
It was fun.
So let's start. So we went from Troy. What about you, Melissa?
Chad and I have been married for 15 years and together for 18. And, I had to do the math before we got on here. Isn't it funny? Time flies and you don't even realize. I'm like, wait, how many years? Oh, yeah, that's right. Yes. And do you want me to share how we met as well?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. We met through a friend. A friend of mine thought it would be fun for us to get together. And so I don't know if any of you are familiar with Warren Miller, who does these ski movies. And when you went to this movie, you'd get a free movie pass. So it was sort of he didn't know it was a setup, but she was kind of setting us up. And we took our free movie passes and we met at Copper Mountain, a ski area. And that was when we first started hanging out. There was crazy traffic. So we got lots of time in the car to and from. So we had, 6 hours in the car to really get to know each other.
Oh my
Yes.
gosh. six hours?
6 hours. After being
non-stop?
sweaty and active, you really get to know somebody.
Talk about captive audience.
Exactly, right? Luckily, he had a great voice, a little smelly, but great voice, good personality.
Wow, that's a long time to be stuck in a car. Just say.
I agree with that. Like 6 hours with like the same person? Like,
Well, we had 3 hours there, skied, and then 3 hours back.
Oh, okay. Good thing you don't hate him. Otherwise, it's gonna be.
Oh, that would be horrible. You didn't like that person.
Yeah, like if it's just on the way back, that's still 3
If
hours.
it's someone you're interested in, it's amazing.
Right.
Oh, yeah,
And
time will be
cute.
too short.
I know.
I think it took us just a little over 6 hours to decide, yep, I like this one. He's the one.
So Jeremy,
I'm
you're
next.
next. I'm very interested in hearing yours because from the last episode you said you had no previous girlfriends. So that
Yeah,
was
one
the
and only.
One and only. So.
Yeah, I wanted a lot more girlfriends, but no, I just stuck with one, and the others didn't want me.
Yeah, there's the one.
So, long story short, and it's really long. I met my wife in school. We was in polytechnic, not exactly university, but it was tertiary education. I believe we dated on the last year of our school. So I was kind of like the older guy in the school because I did my A levels, I did my military service, and I went in. So I was like, I think I was 21 or so, can't remember, and everyone else was like 4 years younger. So it was the last year because I was pretty dead serious to get good grades, and I think towards the last year, that it just happened. So that was 1999, I think, and we were on and off a little bit, not so. Yeah, I think we broke up once or something, and we patched back, and then I do remember I proposed after being together for about 100 months. I did the math because marketers, you need to get the timing right. You want to tag something along the reason why you want to propose. You know what I mean? And that was when I was in China with her. So she joined me in China. We weren't really exactly married, so we tried to work things out. So proposed 100 months after being together officially. So what? There's 7 or 8 years even before we got married. And I think we got married in 2008. Sorry, it's just one whole blur because it's just a long stretch of time. 2008, and now it's 2021. So if you take 1999 till today, I don't know what's the math like. 21, 22 years. Gosh, it's been so long. 22 years.
Man, that's most of your life, dude.
Yeah, I mean, how many 22 years am I gonna get? Yeah, so that's the short of it. Yeah, that's the short part of it. Yeah,
That's the elevator pitch.
sort of.
So
elevator. That's like from level like 1 to like 20 already.
Skyscraper.
So yeah, I'll let Jen tell our story. So I'm married to her. So
Oh, I was gonna let you tell it, but I don't know.
it's your
What?
turn
You mean-
first.
Hold on. You guys are fighting. You guys are fighting already.
We're fighting. I need him to tell it because then he can like romanticize it for me, and I get to hear it all over again.
Oh, that's cool. So
Go ahead, honey.
So we've been married now 12 years.
It's 11.
11. See, I'm already failing.
We've been together about around 12.
Yep. So pretty much it was love at first sight from her end. So she saw me and she fell in love. You know.
What in the heck? Okay, I'll tell it. Never mind. I'll tell it now. So I actually met him in the foyer of a church, and the church is about 11 to 13,000 people. So to actually hone in on one is pretty considerable there. So I had left the church that night and decided I would go back in to see what some of the single people were doing. Notice I didn't say young because I wasn't young at that point. I was already 29 or just turned 29. So
that's still young.
Watch it with the age thing.
Do you know how they young? You usually say, and I went to see what the young single people were doing because they're usually single, but there was actually a group of older ones that we were all single for whatever reason. Most had never been married, and so it just gave me somebody to hang out with that I felt safe and we did a lot of activities together. So I go back in, and he and a group of guys are standing by a acquaintance of mine, a girlfriend of mine. And so I just walked over and I'd asked her, what are you guys doing? And she goes, well, I've already got plans, and all the guys look completely dumb. And so I go, well, hey, do you guys want to go do something? Which is not my typical, I like girls there too. But anyway, I go, hey, you guys want to do something? So we went out to Thai, and this is kind of what sold me on him. There were two things.
Juicy
because
part.
when I first looked at him, I was just being nice, and we were just talking, and I was like, oh,
Dang it.
my cousin.
I thought it was my looks.
No, it wasn't. So, but he drove across the parking lot, and I don't know why this happens to girls, but I'm sure plenty of the females, maybe even Melissa, can say this. It was like finding moment. He drives across in front of me in his shiny black SUV with a lot of black hair, a lot more than he has now. It went straight up.
I had hair back then.
And he had a lot of hair, and I was like, wow, he's actually pretty good looking. And then we go to the Thai restaurant, and the two other guys just talked my head off.
So Jen was materialistic, and it was the car.
That's true.
So that's the honest truth.
He has a great eye for detail.
That's right. At least that night. Something triggered in me. It was like a spark.
No,
And
it's no wonder that you like Korean dramas.
See?
It's like,
yes, he had everything but the eyeliner. He had the style, he had the hair, everything. And so, and I think, I don't know if I knew he was a business owner at that time, but, that it intrigued me because I'd always wanted to own a business. So there's a lot more to the story. But anyway, at the restaurant is when I defined this is what I want, because we're all sitting around the table and body language really does speak. So the other guys were just talking my head off, and I enjoyed the conversation, but I saw the one over there that had his head down, not looking at me, drinking his soup, could care less, and I went, that's the one I want.
he's just hungry. Like he's just doing his own thing, right?
I think it's just human nature. If you don't have their attention, you want it.
Jen, thank you.
That's my challenge. I was like, this is my challenge. And so we ended up getting invited back to his house. He didn't really want anybody to come over, but those guys wanted to make something happen.
They invited themselves to my house because they were all interested in her. And it's funny because those guys are all in their 30s, but they live with their parents, majority of them.
Yeah. So anyway, I was just trying to have a good time. I was just in nice, clean fun. We went to watch a movie. He had a lot of roommates, and they invited more girls because I asked them to, so I would feel comfortable. And we're over there, and there's couches all the way around the living room, and he sits beside me on a 2-person couch.
Nice.
And he offends me with the first statement that comes out of his mouth.
That's not nice.
And because of that, I had to open up and prove him wrong. And then that was it. From there on, we were never apart.
Wait, are you gonna share
Except to
this
sleep.
statement?
Yeah, what was the statement?
I was waiting for that.
Cliffhanger.
Thanks for bringing it up, Melissa.
Okay, so we were watching the what is that movie called?
Twilight.
So it was right when Twilight came out. And I'm not like one of those people that just love that type of like sci-fi or whatever that is. But, I thought it'll be fun. Let's do something different. Let's do something outside the box I don't normally do. So I'm sitting there watching it, and he goes, and I'm thinking in my mind, that girl is really emotionally closed off. And he turns to me and he goes, you remind me so much of her. I'm like, so you think I'm emotionally closed off? I mean, like, dude, we just met. Am I supposed to be like emotionally warm towards you or something?
That was strategic.
He was probably thinking, oh, you have really pretty hair like she does.
Yeah, or you have mannerisms or you look like her. He still says to this day that I looked like her in that moment, at that point in time. And But I took it completely wrong because in my mind there was that insecurity of I'm not open to relationships, or I'm not. So do you see what I mean? So it was kind of like, oh my gosh, I don't want him to think I'm like that, because I'm not. And so then of course I opened up and allowed him to know more about me, because he hit that button. And then he's like, I'm like, oh, I like running. And then he's like, oh, I like running at the nature trail. And so I showed up at 7 the next morning and woke him up, and we went running at the nature trail.
Wow.
So to put this in context,
So there we go. That's a long story.
So what's really interesting is, so Jen talked about, I had a nice car, and I was an entrepreneur.
And had style.
So you'll
Had style.
enjoy
Had
this
hair.
choice. You'll enjoy this choice. So this was when I lost everything in my business that I had. So I ended up with my bankruptcy. And anyone that's gone through a bankruptcy understands you get to keep your car. So I had this brand new car. I always had nice cars. I had this big house. You get to keep your house and your car. So boy, was she wrong, because I just pretty much hit rock bottom in my life. I just lost a business that I built for 4 years. So I wasn't really into girls at the time. And I was like, hey.
That's why it worked, Kevin.
Yeah.
That's why it worked. Because you couldn't care less.
I decided, hey, I wanted to go to church, kind of really rebuild my life and shift my focus and my perspective.
Found a wife.
And then I found a wife.
That was his first
Hold
time
on.
back.
I'm not going to let this one go. So your first night, right? You meet at church, and then you guys are hanging out on a 2-seater, and then you wake him up at 7 a.m. So
I did go home. Yes.
Oh, you went
I did go home and come back.
I know where that was going.
I did come
Boy,
home.
getting racy over there.
He's pushing the boundaries.
So I'm asking.
Hey, I would tell you the truth, but I did go home, and we did pretty good until we got married. So, but it wasn't easy.
I was going to say, Audrey, before we go, I was going to say, Jen, thanks for clarifying things, because finally I know why I never had other girlfriends, because number one, I don't own a car. And number two, I try too hard, try to impress people by talking a lot more. So mystery resolved, finally.
Oh my gosh.
So Jeremy, did your wife have other boyfriends?
Oh yeah, that's the part I hate the most, because she has, my ex. I can never say that I got no ex, so I
Got it.
I got no comparisons to better her in arguments of that nature, right? So
hey, you left your old self behind though to create a new Jeremy.
Is not cool. It's good.
Yeah, comparing is not cool. Yeah, just kidding. I got no basis to compare, but we don't have that kind of arguments anyway,
That's good.
like my ex was whatever better than you. No, we don't have that kind of argument, so it's cool.
That is good.
You
No
were
one likes
actually
to be
thinking
compared.
about that.
I might be wrong. Melissa, correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't feel most exes are a good, not that they're not all good situations, but once they become an ex for whatever reason they became an ex, it's not something that you want to hold on to
Revisit.
when you're in love with someone else. I mean, it actually becomes a weight for, until you can throw it off. And it's always there somewhere. In your
Right. It's not fun to why time travel backwards. If you were a good fit, you would have married that person. Right? Yep. So you weren't a good fit. That doesn't mean you aren't both great people.
Mm-hmm.
You just weren't great together. That's okay. Right? But yes, not nice to compare, right? Like, oh, so that's so good, Jeremy, that you don't. It's kind of a good thing. You're not even tempted.
You're not weighed down at all with all that stuff. You're able to be total Jeremy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Got no background on that.
And actually, you can remind her too. I won over all those exes. Like you chose me.
Yeah. That's a good way to look at it.
So
yes.
did you feel that you actually win anything, Jeremy?
Well, maybe her sense of victory is stronger than mine. Put it this way.
Oh yeah. Is she? Hopefully, she's not going to watch this show, right?
I don't think she does.
Nick asked you, Eldrick, since you're next anyway, did you get your McDonald's?
No. And I know why he asked that question. It was because of his content post yesterday. I think he was just trying to do like a post on where do you stand? Are you a Popeyes person, a McDonald's person, or a KFC person? But in his post, I saw that he spelled fried wrongly. So he reversed I and R, so it became a fired chicken. So I wrote in the comment, what do you mean by a fired chicken and KFC? So that's why he asked if I got my McDonald's, and I was like, no, I didn't.
So,
Your
Eldrick,
turn now.
we're interested in hearing your story, your marriage story.
Oh man, it's gonna be like embarrassing, but okay, because I, as a virtue of memory, I don't remember that much.
Oh my god.
So that's, I'm probably married for about going 5 years this year,
Okay.
probably. And I say that because we don't really remember the date where we got registered. We remembered a lot more on the date where we got our apartment. So if I remember correctly, but actually that's fine. My wife don't watch the live stream. So I think
You sure?
we were yeah, I'm certain. She can't stand me. She says that I talk too much. And I don't want to listen to you on live stream. I don't want to listen to you on podcast. I don't want to see you on my YouTube. And you better not have an Instagram account. So, you know, that's the...
Don't follow me on Insta.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
She's the kind like, you know, she's the kind like, which social media platforms are you on? So I'll tell her, oh, okay, I have a podcast. I'm on Twitter. I have LinkedIn. And I'm trying to see if I can get into Instagram. And she'll be like, stop. Stay on those platforms because I'm not there. But I'm on Instagram. So I don't want to see you there. So don't get there. Right? So so back to that, I think we got registered 2016. That was July. We didn't have any wedding dinners. We were quite an outlier because in this part of the world, Singapore and Asia, there's always the ceremonial dinner, regardless of race, because it's a very big thing for the family. But we do have like respective family issues with our extended family. So the easiest way to get rid of all of that is if I'm not inviting any one of them, I'm not going to invite all of them. And my dad was happy.
That sounds like Kevin's thinking.
Yeah. My dad was happy. My mother-in-law was happy because my mother-in-law didn't want to invite my father-in-law. And, you know, the only one that was against this idea was my mom because she wanted to invite some of her sisters and not invite some of her brothers and have some of the uncles but not have some of the aunties. And I'm like, you know,
that's messy.
Just give it a rest. Okay?
That's messy.
Yeah. So if you insist to go on your own way, then I'm not gonna invite you. And then she's like, oh, how can you do that? I was like, okay, fine. So we registered in July, and we got our apartment in December. So that was really the anchor of our marriage in terms of like how we think about things. So sometimes I get confused, like my wife would remind me, hey, we got married for so many months. I was like, so many months? It doesn't sound right. Then I was like, after a while, it got to me like, oh, it's because she indexed it to July. And I was like, but I don't remember what happened in July. And then she would remind
You took a vow.
You
took a vow. You signed the papers.
You signed the papers in July. I was like,
Yeah.
but that's not the date that we got our keys, isn't it? So we had like those moments where which is what. But fortunately the year is the same. So it was 2016. So that means by calendar milestone we are approaching our 5th year. Before that, we dated since the last year of our varsity. So I don't really remember the numbers, but it felt like a long time. Because it has been a long time since I graduated. And yeah, so in between we had a lot of moments where we were not around. Like I went to work overseas for 8 months, and I only come back every fortnight for a weekend. And then there was a period in time where she was on an overseas assignment for 2 years. So she went China, I went Hong Kong, and then in between I was like Hong Kong, and I was like Australia, and then I was like wherever. I'm wherever except Singapore. So it's kind of confusing to me, and yeah. So I don't think it's something exciting, but it feels, now that I think about it, it feels like it's weird. The entire story leading towards my marriage is weird. But anyway, it is what it is.
Okay, so what I have to ask you the first question here, Aldrich. What do you like? What do you remember when you first met her, and like what attracted you to her? What did you
Oh yeah,
love about
I
her?
remember the first time I met her. I hated her because her results were so much better. I was like, oh gosh, what an eyesore. I remember that like totally. Like when I remember in university, because we met in the first term, and then after that, like so there's this thing called the Dean's List thing. If you made it into the Dean's List, and then people will know. And then I was like, she made it to the Dean's List? She didn't even participate in class. Wait, like where did she come from? And then I started like getting news about this little petite girl who does very well in her examinations and nothing else and whatsoever. And I was like, okay, yeah. So we were friends then, but I didn't have a very good impression because we were fellow competitors, and I needed my scholarship and I wanted my Dean's List and whatsoever. And then things kind of rolled along, like we are friends, but we are frenemies.
Frenemies.
And then friends, and then frenemies, and then whatsoever. And then it's sort of like during our last year, we're like, I don't know why, but it seems like we do have quite a lot of things to talk about. So then we went out for a few times for coffee, literally like for a cup of coffee. And then we went on from there. It was that. But in between my varsity years, I zipped in and out of a number of relationships. I did. So she wasn't in the picture yet, but somehow she's just like around. I don't know why. So there are there's one girl that I was very interested to. She was very close to my wife. I don't know. It just happens.
Yeah, so your wife was collateral damage.
I'm not too sure. I don't think she actually
Sorry.
liked me a lot more. In fact, I think we still have the question mark moment, but it's okay.
It happens.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
Wait a minute. So you're not sure how you ended up together. You're not sure how you got to marriage.
Jen,
and you're not sure how long you've been married.
love is
Otherwise,
blind.
that was an amazing story. I loved it.
Love is blind.
Love is blind.
I'm qualitative. I can't count.
It sounds like you're very present. It sounds like you're in the moment and present, and just you don't need to hold on to those things, huh?
It probably bothers her more than it does for me. It really doesn't. I mean, like there are certain things that I struggle with life, and it's nice to know that she's around. But I don't want to count I don't count the daily things, and because I've been married. This is going 5th year. I think we probably got together for when they graduate. I think it was 2008. So that was the year we got together. So it's a good 12 plus 1 year now. I mean, I say 12 plus 1 because she's very into the inauspicious stuff in Chinese. So that number, which is 12 plus 1, is actually very bad for her. So we've been together for 12 plus 1 years, and I think that there's a lot of things that I appreciate that comes with time, but not indexed to any specific event. I don't have those. if you ask me like, oh, you know, what's the specific moment that we enjoy together eating like chicken McNuggets at McDonald's, I was like, huh? Well, we do that all the time. Like what's the that she'll be able to recount like, oh, you remember that time where we had it? It was after a 20-kilometer walk. We were participating in an event called Let's Take a Walk, and there were many smelly people in the restaurant, and I was like, let's take a walk. So let me think about it. That's probably one out of the 100+ events that I participated in. So which one are you referring to? And then she'll be very pissed off. And she'll be like, okay, fine. I'm just telling you that I missed that moment and we're going to have chicken McNuggets for dinner. And I was like, oh, okay, that sounds good. So we're having that for dinner, right? Okay. That's good. So we're not going out. That's nice. So that's the kind of things that we go through. But to be honest, it's very, how should I say? It's very comforting. You know, like when things like that come along and it rolls along, there's no like specific things that really hits you or pricks you. I think that's more important because I've been scarred emotionally before, and I think those battle scars, they don't go away at all. For some reason, they don't. Mm-hmm. So I would rather just enjoy the day-to-day moments, whether I remember or I don't.
I'm sorry, Aldrich. Now I feel really bad for teasing you about that. But I have to say, how you've described her, I can tell I will get along with her already.
She doesn't like to talk.
Oh, Jen can make people that don't like to talk. So Aldrich, I didn't like talking much either. So
and now
I have a live show. And I'm talking all the time.
And he won't stop. He talks like at 2:00 in the morning too when I don't want him to talk.
It's always good to be very clear what we want and what we're asking for, isn't it?
Yep.
I believe in very good communication. That's the most important.
So I think this leads into a good. So I wanted to really dive into like marriage plays such a big part in our professional life. Like in our career, even entrepreneurship. And for those of you who aren't married and you're single, right? Hey, a partner can be good or it can be bad. So I wanted to just kind of dive into this topic, and I wanted to hear from you. What are some positives and what are some challenges in your marriage as over time, right? Because when you're talking about career journey, you hit your highs and you also hit your lows. And during those times, it really puts a damper on marriage sometimes. There's that challenge when you have the storms and the stress and when things aren't happily ever after,
Never is.
How do you overcome those things, And how do you guys handle those things? I would love to hear that. And I think our audience is actually growing. There's more and more people hopping on, and these things kind of take time. And Aldrich, I think everyone's interested in your love story, so everyone just jumped on.
Like seriously?
They said you tell. Nick Lozano said you tell good stories. You always tell good stories.
Oh, okay.
Thanks,
Nick.
Let's hear from Troy. 21 years and counting.
21 years, yeah. And just to comment on what Kevin had said, for us, we don't really look at it as good and bad, highs and lows, because divorce is not an option, no matter what.
Wow,
and so when you have that mindset where divorce is not an option, then this is a journey of life, right? And so there's no reflection on the good times, and wow, we're going through a really rough patch right now because it is for our whole life kind of thing. Obviously there are challenges, and we're two different people, but just having that, like, there's never a thought or talk of, well, is it time to end this? Because that's just not a part of our thought process, and because it's not a thought of our thought process, we have to come up with solutions where that's not a solution, because it's, divorce can be an easy way out of a situation that might need more work. And I just want to make sure that everything I say about divorce or getting married or whatnot is, there's no judgment for anyone that might be going through a tremendous situation right now. By me, I'm just speaking from my heart, and please, I don't want to offend anyone. My intent is not to offend anyone. So, but all that said, for Lindsay and I, it is that this is life, and this is what we've chosen for our life, and family is important, and no matter what, we will be together.
Awesome. Melissa?
So to me, one of the things, especially when you're on this adventure of entrepreneurship and you do have a partner, I'm going to go back to what I said earlier. I think clear communication is extremely important. And that goes two different ways. So I think listening to what we need and being responsible for what we need to take care of ourselves is the first part of that. I've seen so many clients and have fallen into this little trap myself, like, well, you're supposed to make me happy and you're supposed to get that I'm having a hard time. Like, you're supposed to be able to read my mind and figure this out. And I shouldn't have to tell you. And I can say from my client's experience and my own, that's not how marriage works, right? It is our responsibility to go, wow, I am really frustrated right now. And here's why I'm frustrated. Because if we don't, then our partner picks up that energy of being frustrated. And then they start making stories thinking they did something. And that's why we're acting aloof or standoffish or angry, when it actually has nothing to do with them. So if we can check in, know where we are, and then be honest and clear and respectful about that with our partners, I think that really, it just stops us from having a lot of miscommunications and unneeded arguments, right? That's something that I see all the time, because we think we can mind read and we make assumptions, and it just bites you in the butt every time, and then not in a good way.
Wow. I'll just do a hijack on that one, because when you use the word frustration, right, it sounds like some kind of a SEO keyword that hit me and just pull out a lot of like incidents, right? So if I can just distill everything, it's like there are days where my wife and myself, we are going through a bad patch. Of course, I mean individually. Like after a hard day at work, we don't really work together and things like that. So there are times where I feel very bottled up, and I just needed to release, my frustration. I either sweat it out or I talk. And there are days where after sweating out, it's not enough. So I had to talk. And my wife can see that in my face, and she will be like, "Wait, hold on. I know what you're gonna do, but before that, let me tell you my bad day." And she'll be like, she'll keep going on about her bad day, her boss, her lousy colleagues. Oh, what a stupid IT vendor. That software's not working. Why the bloody balance sheet just doesn't tire? She'll go on and on and on for 45 minutes, and she's done. And I said, you really had a very bad day. Blah, blah, let me get you a glass of water, whatsoever. And then when I passed her the glass of water, I said, "So is it my turn now?" And she said, "No, I'm too tired after renting out. So I think you still need to talk. Can you just go and do your own podcast and talk to yourself?" And I'm like,
no.
Okay.
No, really?
And I'm like, okay, sure. And it's probably like 11:30 or 12 midnight Singapore time. So that's when like the US markets are like in their morning or heading into the afternoon. I'll be like, fine. Go take a good sleep so you feel better tomorrow, and I'll just get to my desk and start trading. I was like, it was all this GameStop stuff, and it was so it reminds me of that. I mean, it happens from time to time. It's kind of funny, but now that I think about it, it's quite asymmetrical, but But anyway,
You know, sometimes what's nice is to set a timer. And it's like, okay, you know what? Each one of us gets 15 minutes. Share what you're going to share. And then ding, okay, now it's my turn. You know, it depends,
Did
right?
you hear that, Kevin?
You know, I mean, you don't have to do it all the time, and it doesn't have to be super scripted and structured and like everybody's trapped. But sometimes it's nice to give people fair time on the stage, right? So that people both feel like they're heard and acknowledged and listened to.
I think every time couples fight, they can just go live and do like Zoom calls with each other, so
And record.
everyone else can hold them accountable on the internet, social media.
And record. Record's important.
That would be a good business model.
We should try that.
We should.
we tried that before, Melissa. We tried that before, but it worked terribly well for her and not for me. Let me tell you why. Or maybe you can use this as a case study for your for your business, right? So we set a timer and it's like 30 minutes each. So
Too
she will go first.
Too long.
Oh, okay, let's make it 15. Whatever that marker is, right? So if it's 15 and her time is up and she hasn't done enough, what she does is let me pull ahead my 15 minutes from tomorrow. So she will just carry on. And I'm like, okay, fine. And then she's not done yet.
So
Let
she
me
borrows
pull
time
ahead.
from the next day. So she's
Yeah,
like,
so she
I'm gonna
pulls.
take my 15 minutes from Thursday. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it now. Oh, she's a
Yeah.
smart one.
Yeah, she pulls her time ahead, and then she doesn't have any time or any like emotional bandwidth to listen to me. My times get pushed behind, and come on, like this is like there's no end to this, right? And how long are we gonna give? How much time are we going to like quarrel on this one because then it doesn't work.
So Eldrick,
She-
your wife is in the software industry.
Nah, she's not. But she's an accountant,
Oh, okay.
a finance manager. But there's a
Ooh.
lot of digital transformation around that space. So she's very frustrated with those.
Yep.
You know, I had an interesting thing that a mentor said, and I'll just share this for a second. But I remember her telling me, because at one point I worked in a hospital and I listened to people tell really sad stories, right? Really sad stories. And then I thought I was supposed to come home and like share all of those with my husband.
Offload.
And
Yeah.
know, right. And he could not do that, right? It just he couldn't process it. It's really traumatic and heavy. And he has a sensitive heart, even though he may not say that he does. And my mentor was like, why would you take your bad day that you already had to live through once, and then you choose to live it again, and you choose to make the person you love live it too?
Go through. Ooh.
Why would you do that?
That's good.
And I was like, oh, really? Why did you have to make sense? Right? I mean, I hate it when people do that. But it was such an interesting thing, like a perspective switch, right?
Yeah.
Like, oh. And then you don't really have much to say, right? It just sort of shuts you up for a second.
And I would advise every husband to not do that to their wife as she's telling them.
How do you know that was on my mind?
Don't try that at home.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, Troy. Yeah, don't go, hey, you just lived that crappy day. Don't make me live it too. Yeah, that ain't gonna work. Or like my husband likes to say, why don't you call one of your girlfriends and talk about that?
That's a better one. That's a better one.
Good.
Right? And sometimes
great.
actually I do go, you know what? That's a great idea. I'll call one of my girlfriends, you know? But it's just an idea of like, oh, maybe though, like thinking of yourself, like maybe I don't really need to live through that again.
Yes.
Right? Like maybe I can vent this out in a different way. Maybe I journal it, I call the girlfriend, I write it down, I think of some other way to sort of vent this out so I don't vomit this on the both of us again.
Yeah, and I have a different perspective, Aldrich. I think that you listening, even though it's not fair, is the example of love, because you're sacrificing your rights because of your love for your partner, right? And when we get into the fair game and start taking score,
It's never fair.
yeah, it's
never
you're
fair.
getting to it. So good
Never
job.
fair.
You're an example for all of us.
Oh,
I-
that's so true. Listening is a gift. And you're right. Keeping score
actually-
is not a good idea.
Actually, I don't think I have that in mind. Probably Kevin, Jeremy, and Jennifer already knows that. All I was looking forward to is to reduce the distance between that time to me getting to bed. And
I get that.
That's really
I get
the thing. Like, if I were to add on to that, this conversation is going to be extended, and if these conversations get extended, then I'll sleep like 30 minutes later. If I sleep 30 minutes later, I have to wake up at the same time tomorrow. I'm not going to have enough sleep, and then my productivity will be affected. So this whole thing just knows what I was like. Okay, you know what? It's a lot better to just listen and keep quiet. And if I'm frustrated, I'll probably just next morning just do some podcast recording, get it done, and shoot it out. That's all I'm thinking. I don't think I'm that altruistic.
Hey, Aldrich, I have a thought for you, and this may or may not work, but I think it might. When I really need Kevin.
Hang on a second. Isn't today's show about like marriage and love and not about Aldrich? I feel like it's like going on and off.
It's counseling Aldrich. I'm joking.
Aldrich,
Wow.
this is how to trap your wife to listen, but actually
No. It's okay. It's okay.
Here's what you can do. You take her to her favorite restaurant. So you invite her on a date.
McDonald's.
While she's sitting there so relaxed and enjoying the time, you can share
It's for
with
you,
her
Kevin.
and say,
You better listen.
you
It's
say,
for you.
I do this to Kevin. I get him away from my mother-in-law, from my kids. I take him where he relaxes, maybe go get a coffee. And then I start to share a little bit with him because he's so relaxed to listen.
Well, I think that's a great
Oh, that's why
investment.
she asks me to do stuff.
She's giving her secret away. But I actually think that's a great investment and nourishing to your relationship for you all to get time alone, right? I think it's really easy, especially right now during the pandemic. Like, we're not really investing in our relationship, like even just a little bit of alone time together, not just talking about logistics and bills and the calendar, but like being friends and sharing. And, that's so nice. So I love that idea, Jen. Maybe our intentions are different, but I think it's a win-win for everyone. Not that we're keeping score, like Troy said.
Well, but
I do agree. He's totally right with that.
and I'm sure
Troy's
you would
wise.
agree, Melissa, that it seems to me it means a lot to a woman to feel, for whatever reason that you took her out. You took her out. You took her to do something she enjoys to do. So it's still quality time for her. But then also maybe you can, while she's relaxed and open to listening and happy, then you can share some things that are on your heart. So
Right. And it's knowing what's quality time, right? For one woman, it might be, or man, it might be going out to eat. For someone else, it might be going for a hike. For someone else, it might be, hey, let's watch this movie together or a documentary or whatever it is. But yes, right? Like having that quality time it's really nice, right?
No,
Just be a couple.
and I really like the 2 points that's brought up here. I think one from Troy, marriage is mutual, right? So it's sacrificial, for both parties. In order for a marriage to work, you have to have that heart to be willing to give, to give yourself, without tracking who's right, who's wrong, and the points and stuff. Because I think the day you say I do, you're sacrificing a part of hey, how it is to be single, right? Is you're changing, you're becoming one, you're together, and I think that's. And then the second point is what Melissa says: communication. Being able to really get your point, like talk to each other and communicate and listen. I think a lot of us fail at listening because we want to share our point or get our point across, and I fell at that sometimes, and it's like, hey, I want my point heard and I want to be right, but a lot of times at the end of the day it's like, hey, I have to humble myself and go, hey, sorry, Jen, yeah, hey, you're right, or hey, and be able to admit that we're wrong, so I think that communication aspect is so important. So I also want to hear from you guys. What are your thoughts? We all been, besides Aldrich, we all been married 10 plus years. So when you're about to get heated or get in a bad situation, do you prefer just the person walking off and being quiet? Or what are some things you guys do to eliminate the fire, to de-escalate the situation? I want to hear. Or are you the type that started screaming and yelling? So I come from a home. So I think your upbringing affects how you respond in marriage a lot, right? The way you grow up. So I grew up in, traditional Asian family, which isn't an excuse by any means, how you react to a situation, because when you become an adult, you have to own it. You're your own person. But in the Asian culture, I know there's a lot of yelling, and maybe Eldrick and Jeremy can attest to that, right? Asian people yell. Like my mom can nag me from like morning until the morning 3 months from the morning she started nagging at me about the exact same thing, So 3 months later, that 7 a.m. is like, oh, we're still on that same topic 3 months ago. Wow, So that's how I grew up, okay? And I watch.
He's not joking.
And I watch my dad deal with it, and it becomes, is that how marriage is supposed to be? And it isn't, right? And then also there's a lot of things being thrown, happens, and it's just very different, right? In America, you'll be calling the cops, So anyway, I want to hear from you guys, and I love this because you have the East and the West, and I want to just hear the diverse perspective on how do you handle before things blow up on fire.
Am I supposed to go first? Let's hear from Troy first.
What?
I think Troy is very wise, so I want to hear from him.
So I'm the high maintenance one, and Lindsay is the more rock. She hasn't read my book yet, and I every night, can you read one chapter, please? So I'm kind of the nagger, but we know our roles. And so when I'm the one that gets over emotional. I'm the artist, the creative one. So she gives me that leash, right, where I can raise my voice. I'm Puerto Rican as well, so she understands that about me. And then when it's where I've crossed the line, like this morning, I crossed the line. She comes up and lets me know. And most of the time, as Melissa can attest to, it's miscommunication, because what's in my heart and what came out of my mouth may not align. So we've gotten better over the years to use "I feel" statements, right? Instead of
good.
"You are doing blah 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 blah." Instead, we say "I feel like," and then we give that how we feel. And we all read the same books and so forth. Sometimes we know we're reciting from books and so forth, but like it's never it never reaches that point, because we we try to nip it in the bud as soon as possible. Like once I know I'm upset, I will communicate it, and then and she does the same. So I think by doing that, the fights are smaller, and they don't get into throwing things and that sort of thing.
That's good.
And we don't have a perfect marriage by any means.
Well, we're not perfect people, right? So we're not going
Absolutely.
to have a perfect
Absolutely.
marriage.
That's right. That's right.
I appreciate that. And I love the, if we can say those I feel statements, like you said,
Yeah.
Troy, and then even follow it up with like, I feel angry. Could you please do this? Right? Could you please listen to me? Could you please put the dishes in the dishwasher? Right? Whatever it is. Of course, then my husband might go, well, I feel frustrated because you redo the dishwasher every time I put the dishes in there. So why should I put them in if you're just going to redo the work? Right? Like, so one, we want to be able to laugh at each other, right? Because I'm like, oh, that's so true. Like, I totally do. The perfectionist in me really wants to like redo the dishwasher. Who cares? Like, if they make it in there, throw them in there, right? Like, it's funny what we'll hold on to. I think like what feels a big deal. And to what you said, Kevin, when you feel the heat, right? Like coming up. What I think is so important to realize is when we start to get really angry, we trigger our nervous system, and then we're in kind of a fight and flight place, right? So we either want to like duke it out or we want to get the heck out of there and run away. And either one, if we're that defensive, we can't hear each other anymore anyway. Right? We can't be curious. We can't be open. When we get defensive, we totally shut down. And so sometimes we just need a little space, like to be able to say to each other, wow, I feel really angry and I need a little space to think about this. And I'm kind of like Troy's Lindsay. I'm the one who will breathe. And my husband is the one who's like, and that's how my mom was too. And my dad was the one who's really calm. So it's sort of this flip flop. But I'm sitting there breathing and he's like, how can you be so calm right now? Yeah. Right. It almost makes him more mad. So I'm like, I'm just taking it in. Right. I'm just taking it in, trying to figure out what I want to say. Right. Because in my head, I'm like, you're not listening to me anyway. Let's just take a break. And give each other the space to like calm down so you can come back together again and be respectful and be kind and listen to each other. But when we get in that really hot place, our brain is just so out there, right? It's like, I've got to survive and win. And as Troy said, it's not about winning or losing, right? Like, this isn't what we're talking about here. We're in this together. There's no plan B. Plan A is this marriage works. Let's figure it out.
I have
Awesome.
to say, first of all, that I think it's okay, personally, to redo the dishwasher because they waste so much space.
That's my thing, right?
Yes.
Like, we're wasting water and space. Why are we doing this? Like, make it optimize the space.
Yes,
No way.
I have to say that because there are not perfect people, but there is a perfect way to put everything in the dishwasher and it gets washed properly. Now, if I wasn't home and he puts everything in there and runs it all lopsided and it's done, that's cool. It's done. So no problem.
I'm a creative.
If I come along and it's just thrown in there, I'm like, what a waste of space. I just wanted to say that first of all. And
because the dishwasher dishes in the sink actually can be a marriage point of contention. We've
Yeah.
Oh,
all
of
bumped
course.
into you don't put the
yeah.
cardboard boxes down, or you order too much from Amazon, or you don't put the dishes in the dishwasher right. You don't make the bed
Yeah,
right. There are
when
these
you spill water
It's always
and there's
it's
hair on the
always the
floor.
always the small things. Always the small
right.
things. Never the big
Yeah.
ones.
The small things can become so big, and it's back to that perspective again. Like, wait a minute, it's a dish, it's the bed, they're cardboard boxes. Like, our relationship is way more important than this teeny tiny thing that we just like blow out of proportion. It still happens though.
So I actually want to ask you, Melissa, even from a professional perspective, because I've heard that this is not the way to do it, but I feel it works really well for Kevin and I. So the problem with communication is when emotions get in the way. It's very hard to communicate when you're in that fight or flight mode, which happens a lot. So, especially during quarantine, right? Because you're all stuck together. You've got kids running around, doing backflips between you while you're trying to talk. There's just so much going on. And so, if Kevin is upset and I feel that he has wronged me, or I feel that I was not right in the way that I did something, I will wait until he goes into the bedroom or into the bathroom. He always has his phone. And I will start texting or Skyping him and share my feelings and get everything out. And he can't stand to not read it, and he can't stand to not respond
Not
to it
reply.
because he's a type A. So, but we work through it that way, and by the time he comes out, we're sorry. And it's over with. There was no emotion in that. All the emotion, I don't know, it just, when you type something or you write something, you're sharing your heart, but they can read it without all the emotion.
Did you say washroom?
Yeah, the
He goes,
bathroom.
he goes in there.
Bathroom?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he
so-
stays in there.
It's
With
the
his
safest
phone.
place in the household.
It's the safest place during an argument.
Yeah.
No, I was gonna say
And no, I
it's
do
a
not
good
throw
way.
things.
So,
No,
so
it's a
you're
good way
not
to resolve.
leaving. So Jeremy, you're not leaving the house. So you're still respectful. You're in the house, but you just gotta go to the bathroom.
Yeah, but the thing is this. I think Jen is smart because in the bathroom you get to get rid of your physical baggage as well as the emotional one. All at the same time, you come out refreshed. So it's smart
Multitask.
Or at least a little lighter. A little lighter.
on every front. Yeah.
I think that goes back to getting a little space though. Like if you're in fight or flight mode and you're in that reactionary space, right? You've gotten a little bit of physical space, and you've also just given yourselves an opportunity. Like even the act of writing, right? It makes you more intentional with what you're
Yeah.
saying.
Yes. You can erase it if, I better not say that. That will make him really mad. Or
Right. And
actually,
it's not
that's
what I
not really
mean.
how I feel.
Yes, exactly. Is that what I mean? Like, wow, that's
Yeah.
just, and then even looking it over before you send it, it's like, oh, wait a minute, right? Like, is this really true in what I want to say? So
It's more
you
considered.
two have found a great strategy to give yourselves a little space and then communicate still with each other. So, I mean, if that works, that's great. So I'll text my husband and I just get a K,
Oh, really?
right?
Oh.
And I'm like,
Oh.
so that may not really work for us,
Everybody. Oh.
right? But at least I feel better because I've put it out there. And he's like, okay, let's talk about it later. And I'm like, okay, but at least I feel like I got it out. And,
Right.
especially if I was the one who was kind of a jerk,
Yeah.
right? Like I feel better about going, wow, I was kind of crappy. And I'm sorry about that.
And,
Right.
and-
I'd like to talk to you about it more. And that's when I'll get, okay. Which means he's still processing and he still needs his space.
But you were able to say everything that you needed to say and be heard.
Right. Whether
In a
that's a
sense.
text or an email or a voicemail or Skype or
Yes.
whatever it is that each one of us does. What
Because
do you
there's
all think?
There's nothing that makes me more mad than you're right in the middle of trying to share your heart or talk something out and someone gets in their car and leaves. So that's why I love, you go to your bedroom, we'll Skype or text, and then we work it out.
Yeah, because the key is if you leave each other, but you keep thinking about the argument or the disagreement, you're actually not allowing yourself to calm down, to come back and be kind when you do talk again, right? Because the argument's still going on in your head.
That's good.
So it's like, okay, well, if you do bathroom, go for a walk, listen to music, do something to like allow your brain to calm down so you could be present and focused when you come back together. But if you just stay in the argument space, right, that doesn't help anybody.
No, and according to how you react to the situation can cause insecurity in your partner. So
Yeah,
depending on who you
abandoned.
are. Yes. Yes.
You don't want them to feel like you don't care and that at any moment you're walking out the door, right? That's a horrible feeling because you're so vulnerable when you share your feelings anyway. And then to feel like, wow, you're just going to leave me? Don't leave me, right? It feels awful. But it's okay. I mean, I think it's different if you can say, you know what? I need to go for a drive because this matters and I need to think about it. Or I need to think, but I'll be back in an hour, right? If you do need to do that, that makes sense, right? But let the person know that you care and you're coming back. What do you all?
What about you, Jeremy? I want to hear from Jeremy and Eldrick.
Yeah.
I just want to say something in response to what Melissa just said because it's very interesting. And of course, we should never walk out of a conversation that exposes our vulnerability. The issue is if that's no end. So I usually do something, but please do not throttle me on my social media accounts. But anyway, what I'm trying to say is that and we know if that particular topic coming from our partners is not coming to an end anytime soon, there are always ways in which we can try to end it in a very loving way. And sometimes it doesn't have to be an open communication. Like if it's late into the night and you're tired and you want to sleep, like for me, I like to do that. So what I do is, you had such a hard day. Continue talking. Let me just massage a little bit of your palm. Let me just massage a little bit of your palm, the back of your palm, and things like that. Because why? That little massage is going to send her into snooze land earlier than she expected. So the moment she sleeps, I know I can do my other things. So that's why it'll cut it short, but you don't have to like.
Aldrich, I was just about to say, well, that's so sweet because that will calm her down by massaging her feet or her hand.
But that wasn't my intention.
And then let me say that.
That wasn't my intention.
Punchline.
But anyway, I hijacked. Go ahead, Jeremy.
No, I like what Troy shared a lot. Apart of the thing about there's no plan B, there's no going back. And I'll be first to admit, I've thrown that D word around quite a fair bit, but it's always out of spite to it's really like the hot buttons. And but I know at the back of my mind it has to work because the vow, right? That's what you committed to. If you can't even hold yourself accountable to that, then nothing's going to work, right? Everything falls apart. So what you said, Troy, really resonated with me. But me and my wife, well, we don't really get along well. It's been a very long time and hard period of time all this while. Maybe it's kind of better now. The irony is this: when I was working and traveling a lot, and back to the first question, the ups and the downs. I mean, I do really appreciate, because when I was in China, I was traveling a lot, and then my wife was a homemaker 100% of the time. Now with kids, she's looking after the kids 100% of the time. She takes after the back office. I call it the back office. House is in order so that I can push forth and do what I've done one in front, right? So I have the assurance that my back office is in order so that I can, really charge ahead with what I do in my career, whatever not. So that's really the good part of a marriage. You have the assurance someone's watching my back, no matter what. The kids are being fed, they're taken care of, and all that, and that's really good. but the tiring part really is, the arguments. I think, I hate to say this, but it's written in the stars, literally. I remember when we were still dating, we went to Borders bookstore when Borders bookstores were still around, and we found this whole thick, huge book on astrology. And what this book does is on each, it's like this thick, literally this thick and this huge, and on each page there's is divided into half. And what it does is it matches the days, all the different days, and all the couples. They read on the couple on different days, and they talk about what kind of a chemistry you have. And of course, we checked out, me and my wife back then, we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and it flipped, and it was just really scary because it says that our relationship is really based on one always trying to be the teacher, teaching the other person, and the other one doesn't really want to be a student. So that kind of, it had always stuck in my head, and it's kind of true because it's kind of my life. And because I've been in this game long enough, I went from always defensive, always wanting to be right, up to this point, I'm kind of like, yeah, you're right, I'm wrong. just to end it. And it's taken a long time for me to reach that point. And we are always we are a lot at each other's throat. We push each other's hot buttons. And so how do I de-escalate? I de-escalate by not escalating, but it's like all pent up. So it'll be like pressure cooker, slowly building. And one day it will boom, I will blow, and it will take a long time for me to recollect back. And that's when it's tough. So it's happened many times. So, anything goes for me. That's not exactly a good thing. And anything goes for her, and that's also exactly not a good thing. So I think it's still a learning process. It's still a journey, and it's never happily ever after. It takes a lot of work, more work than work itself, and with kids thrown in the mix, it's just makes it so much more complicated.
Game changer.
That's and to your point, Melissa, now it's really more of logistics, sorting things out, make sure that every day runs smoothly, and not so much of communicating, hey, so how are you feeling? We don't have time for that. Or you're just too tired to do that. We probably don't argue as much now because we're all both too tired, to be honest.
Well, that'll do it, right?
To be frank. Yeah.
It takes energy to be mad.
Yes, exactly. And I just want to save the energy. So the point being, I think I was going to say the irony was that during the lockdowns and the pandemic, when we all stuck at home, things actually became better. It's weird. Things actually became better, and it's weird. It's really weird. So things are better now. We took a pandemic to make things better. I just hope it lasts. I don't want to jinx it. Yeah, so that's a little bit of sharing because the details will just be too gory. So no, I'm not gonna let you guys have that. Don't wash my dirty linen in public.
and that's so good, Jeremy, because you really share your heart, right? And I think in the midst of this pandemic, and I hate to go into pandemic talk, but it's real, right? I think there's a lot of sweet and positivity that's happening in the world as well, because we get to slow down. Because I think in so many modern culture today, we're just in this world, we're just trying to thrive and grow, and we're trying to climb the corporate ladder, be successful in our business. We're always trying to build something, but we lose ourselves in the things that really don't matter. At the end of the day, you don't take your wealth to your grave. All that stuff you build, all this social media, your followers, it doesn't really matter. No one, I guarantee you, when you're on your deathbed, and I used to do this as a younger guy in my 20s, I used to like going to nursing homes and talking to the elderly, because one of my questions is like, hey, what do you like? What do you regret? I like talking to old people. And it really opened up my mind. Never, I would volunteer time at the nursing home or go talk to people with my church and different things. I've never heard anyone said, "Hey, I regret not working more,
Oh, working harder.
or harder, or making more money or wealth." It's always, I met this guy. Example, he literally, like, he spent Thanksgiving with me, and he was pretty well off and everything, and he said none of his kids want to be around him anymore. He went through 2 marriages, and now he has all the money in the world,
So
but
what?
he has nobody. And he said his biggest regret was he wished he would have spent more time in the things that matter instead of building his business. And I've came across so many men that were older that said the exact same thing. And these aren't like just things I hear or articles I read. These are people I actually met, and even at the time I used to work for Enterprise at an airport, and Enterprise rent a car during my time when I just got my bankruptcy. And then there was this old man that would come in to the airport, and he sat there every single night, and I couldn't figure out like why he was doing that. So I started talking to him. And he's another one, really successful, probably a multimillionaire. And he goes to the airport and watches people because he was so lonely. And the airport, he said he sees people in and out. And it was like 10, 11, at night. And this old man, like in his 80s, would just sit there. And he said during the holidays, he has no one to go to, so he get to know all the people working at the airport, and it gives him a sense of like all the people flying in and out during the holidays makes him feel like a celebration because he's so lonely at home.
Oh, so that's where he found some connection and community.
And
was
so
at
he
the
got
airport.
to know all of us, the guys that work at the airport. He knew us by name because he felt like, he's connected to these young people. And I think we forget about that stuff. And during the pandemic, we got to slow down as much as sometimes it's like some people don't enjoy being with their spouse or the kids, But then you start forgetting like the sweetness when you first met or when you first had your kids, We're just also busy,
Yeah. I
And
think. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, and I think a lot has changed. Like, I even told Jen, for me, like, for the last 6 years, I always had an office, an agency, brick and mortar, where I go to with my team. And I don't come home till 7 or 8 at night. And usually my kids are done with dinner at times. And I look back, I go, I don't know if I want an office again.
Hungry.
It's changing the way I think. It's like, like my kids are hungry right now.
Mine just came in and said the same thing. So I totally get it. Mine's like, where's the food? Where's dad? Right? But it's true, right? Like that opportunity to shift gears really allows us to kind of go, well, what do I want life to look like and what matters?
Yep.
To me, I feel it's not so much of slowing down because you see in the past, a lot of people feel this, right? If you are the one bringing home the bacon and the wife's not working, taking care of the house, you're just gonna be like, when you're out on business trip and then there are problems popping out at home, just solve it, right? I'm here trying to make a living. This is your job. Go solve it. You don't see what goes behind the scene.
That's
good.
good.
But when you are locked down in pandemic in the space I live in, not as big houses in like in the US, like 100 square meters or so, 4 people in the same space, 24/7. You see every little part of what you do or what you help manifest into something that's really valuable. You take care of this off somebody's load, and the person watches your back on something else. And you really see it in that constrained space, then you realize how everything works and you appreciate things better. Because when you aren't physically apart, you're on a business trip, you just don't get in your mind, I'm traveling here, I'm busy, I have to meet customers, I'm bringing home the money, can't you just solve that? And in her mind, it's more of a, you're out there traveling, having clients dinner, right? Having fun, drinking beers, whatever. And I'm here stuck with the kids and I have to do all this chores, single parenting. You don't get that understanding. I think that's what the pandemic did for me, at least in my household. So I just wanted to share that, and I think that helped a little bit. I don't know if things are going to be back to normal, and then when I start flying, it's just going to be bad again. Hopefully not, based on this experience, but we'll see.
But
We'll
it
see.
goes
So
back
there's always
to
good and bad.
yeah, Jeremy. It goes back to what Melissa said. The worst thing we can do is assumption, and I actually take
And
that
reading
into,
minds.
yes,
And
even
reading minds.
running my business,
So many-
right?
so many times.
I've learned even managing staff, like employees or staff in my team. The worst you can do is just assume. And Jen hears me talk about this. And I think it's human nature. We just assume, well, they aren't in the office next to me. Now they're at home. That, hey, XYC might be just sleeping in or not doing their job or whatever. It's just natural. And then you start learning. Like, even, and I agree with you. Like, when I was out at the office, I don't see what Jen does at home. And it's like, now I'm home. I'm like, dude, that's a lot of work. Like, trying to take care of kids, I rather go work, you know. It's much easier,
Yeah.
And the same thing, like Jen says the same thing, back when we were working apart, where she's home, I'm at work, she would assume like, hey, you're just out and about having fun, you own the business, so, and I'm like, it's not fun,
Yeah, it's not fun.
I put out a lot of fire, so, and now she's seeing it when I'm working at home. She's like, now I know why you don't want to talk after work, because you talk to so many like problems throughout the day. I wouldn't want to talk either. So she gets to see my perspective of why, I'm tired,
Because
so
the assumption thing, we go back to what you guys shared earlier, Troy and Melissa, the comparison thing. Because you go into a negative spiral because you're going to be like, oh, I'm busy, I'm very tired today, I'm more tired than you because of the XYZ. And then the other party says, no, I'm more tired than you. Your job is easy. I do A, B, and C more than you, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah,
so what?
it's a
Nobody
race to
wins.
the bottom.
No
It's a
one
race to
what
the
wins.
for?
bottom.
Nobody wins.
No one gets a trophy or a
Yeah, where's the
badge
prize?
for being
Yeah.
the busiest. No one
Precisely.
does.
Precisely. So it's more of helping out, and I like the part when Melissa said, mind reading. There's so many times I told my wife, sorry, I can't read your mind. I don't have that psychic power. I just
We
let it out
really
from that
wish you did, though. Speaking from a female perspective, so many women
Of course.
would love it. And that's one of the things that I often talk to my clients about. And that I'm even writing in my book about is like, just speak up, right? Like, don't expect people to figure it out. Speak
Yeah.
up. And one
This
thing that you brought up, Jeremy, that I think is so important is like, now we have this renewed appreciation for our spouses and what they do. And so, saying it like, wow, you're amazing at navigating like the kids' play dates or this or that, like to acknowledge each other and recognize and appreciate each other for what we're bringing to the partnership and the relationship, I think is really powerful in marriage, right? Like I had no idea.
The problem if I start doing that, she'll think that some alien took my body. So
They actually, I don't know about in Asia, but in America, we've never done this before, but there's actually a journal where there was a movie made on it too. I don't remember the name of it, but pretty much you go through 30 days of just changing the way that you speak to your spouse, start doing things. And it literally lists today, just do this one simple thing. And
Jen, is it P.S. I love you after he died?
No.
I'm just joking.
No, that was no. It's a movie.
read that book.
Think Kirk Cameron is in or something. I don't remember, but Fireproof. It's called Fireproof. Fireproof. And there's literally, it literally helps. And as he changes toward her, she was going to divorce him, but she began to see him in a different light and slowly adjusted to what he was doing for her, began to open back up. And they both changed as a result of this journal. And I would love to hear kind of what's helped you guys resolve different hard spots that you've come across throughout the years. For Kevin and I remember one time we both had that bottled up, especially me. I don't know if he did as much because I think he just kind of goes along with life. But for me, I had things that were like bottling up inside. And I was so frustrated. And when I would try to talk, he just didn't see the problem. He just didn't see, why are you so frustrated? Why can't you just let that go? Why are you holding that, in your heart against me? Well, it's not that I wanted to. I just don't feel I'm being heard. And a woman, and I know a man is this way too in some regards, we need to be heard as a human. And so we need to express ourselves. And so one time we actually had a friend who became a moderator for us. He sat in between us almost physically. And we literally he would moderate whose turn it was to speak. And we were literally just, without Kevin being able to say anything or without me being able to say anything when he's talking, we could share our feelings, everything, the raw stuff, like, I can't stand when you do this, blah, 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 and it affects me like this. Okay. And right now, I am not liking you very much. I love you, but I'm not liking you. And I'm not enjoying this. It has to change. Okay. So we did that one time and it changed our whole marriage.
That's called marriage counseling.
But it wasn't really counseling. It was more just somebody sitting in between.
A neutral party.
A neutral party who allowed, okay, Kevin, wait, let her finish.
Bottoms up marriage counseling.
For her out. Okay. It made such a huge impact because, for example, if your wives or your husbands are holding something inside, all of a sudden you're sitting across the table from them and you're allowed to say, you're allowed to share, and the other one has to listen. There's no defense mechanism.
So guys, sign up below. I'm going to leave a link.
Yes.
You guys can rent any of us out on this episode, and we'll be moderators for your you and your wife. We'll hop on a Zoom call. It'll be just a low price of $1,000, and I will moderate any marriage.
I'm actually interested to listen. I'm actually interested to hear how Troy does it, with his spouse, as in handling conflicts. I somehow feel that I could learn a lot from you.
Go ahead, Troy.
We don't let the conflict get to a place that is going to harm the objective or the overall. And we have 4 kids, right? So as our teenage daughters get older, we now have a new problem. It's called social media, and it's called anxiety and depression, and all these Gen Zers are going through
boyfriends. It's called boyfriends.
We haven't even gotten there yet. But like,
or he doesn't know yet.
Yeah. Because of that, we have now had to strategize, whether we like it or not, on, we just found this out. We have an app called Bark that monitors all their activity. And when some dude thought it was cool to call my daughter a whore as a term of endearment, she was offended by it. No one's offended by it at that age. It's the culture that we live in, right? Rap music is using derogatory terms for women. And so now my wife and I, it doesn't matter what argument we're in or what we have, our daughter is being influenced, right, by this kid who is probably hurting inside themselves. And so that has taken our relationship to a whole nother level, because we have to work together for the betterment of our children and the safety of that. So we just, long answer, short question, we just don't let it get to a place where it can have that hold on us. Otherwise, we're not going to make it. We're just not. It fast as is the minute that I have hurt feelings or feeling like betrayal or whatnot, I have to bring it up. So that's kind of how we do it. We have not had a major,
fallout,
and we don't keep secrets. and I'm kind of funny. So she'll come home one day and I'll say, "Are you having an affair?" Just out of the blue.
Oh,
And she goes, "Why
that's
would you ask
like
that?"
that's like
Why
my
not?
wife, and my wife asked that when we are on lockdown. I'm like, yeah, really? Who? I'm with you 24/7. Who?
Yeah, yeah. But I ask it for fun because when do you ever ask your spouse if they're having an affair? You just don't, right?
Jeremy's having an affair with BUP. Bottoms up perspective.
Every Thursday. Every Thursday.
That's right.
Open secret. She can watch the affair anytime.
With Eldrick shooting videos.
Oh well.
There's videographic proof. Sorry, Troy, go ahead.
No, that's it's kind of a underwhelming answer, but that's what works for us.
No, I like that because that's happening more with me and my wife. It's like, okay, whatever happened yesterday, no, put it aside. We got something bigger than us to fix. Yeah, I think in a way, kids force us to do that. So might not be a bad thing to have kids, right? In a way.
And I think for Jen and I too, I think it's important to we try to make an effort that we don't ever go to bed like mad at each other. So I think one of the biggest thing, regardless of like we said earlier, who's
Resolve
right
it,
or
yeah.
who's wrong, it's just saying sorry. You know, it's okay. You know, just being humble enough to just say, hey, maybe I'm wrong. You know, and I apologize. You know, and it does
for me-
wonders when you're married. You know,
For me, it's
and-
slightly different. I go to bed angry or not, and then I wake up, everything's reset.
yeah. But then
That's my
the
remedy.
other party might not feel the same. So it's
Oh,
good
that's true.
to, you know,
That's true.
give them the peace of mind too so they can go to bed, you know, everything's good. And I think we try our best to never just I would even sometimes I go to bed mad. I would purposely wake back up and just say, "Hey, I'll wake her up and just apologize."
That's cool.
You know?
In
And
the
then she
middle of
won't
the sleep?
she won't remember.
There's mixed feelings with that one.
Like,
I'm so thankful
I-
that
Wake up, wake up.
I wouldn't
oh
like
no,
it.
I need to be able to go back to sleep. How am I gonna
She,
do this? But
she
you
gets
did
more
say
angry
sorry.
after that. She gets
Yeah.
even more angry.
Hey,
The mama brain doesn't easily go back to sleep once it's been woken
is
up.
hard.
But I
It
do
is hard.
appreciate, right? Like the idea
Yes.
of caring for each other. Yeah, but mom brain, the prefrontal cortex doesn't, once it's up, it's like, who do I need to take care of?
Yes.
Takes a while
Yeah.
for it to bring it back down. But Jeremy, is as you said though, you said sometimes you're a bit of a pressure cooker. And if
Yeah.
you think what's happening is, I bet when you go to bed and you wake up fine, I kind of like what Troy was saying, like, go ahead and deal with those little things right when they come up, because you and your wife are going to be, you got to be a team together and a united front when you're dealing with these things with your children.
Yeah.
Right.
That's
And
good.
so, but if we keep going to bed angry, like over time, it's going to blow. And so
Yeah.
Troy's
But my
idea
thought-
of like, get to it. Like, if you're angry, tell each other.
my tolerance is getting better, so a bigger capacity now.
Hey, that's
Takes
great,
longer to
though.
feel the pressure. And over time, it diffuses on its own. So that's a natural process. Yeah.
Right.
Don't want to keep
Always
too much in the
right.
head.
But it
Yeah.
actually
Start
creates better
confessing.
relationship with your spouse if you're not just overcoming the feeling and getting rid of it, but you're actually working it out with them so that when that comes up again, you already kind of have the victory over it, if I might say. Like, you know how to, you
That's
guys
fair.
know what each other are thinking. So
Yeah.
you might be able to deal with the feelings yourself, but how is she dealing with those feelings? Because she had feelings about the same misunderstanding or the same situation. And this is something that I really have in my heart to point out, that I've realized, is how much emotions affect the human body.
Oh,
So when we love each other and I'm holding a bunch of emotion that is negative inside of me, or I'm not being forgiving, or he's not being kind to me, I'm just giving an example, hypothetical, it can affect my skin, which right now at 41 is very important to me. I try to have the best skin that I can. It can affect my health, my energy level, my emotions affect my health, and maintaining the health and the sanity it can affect my hair turning white faster. I'm just saying, if you love your significant other, we not only want to make sure that they're eating well or that they're having time for themselves, but we also want to make sure that they're able to diffuse their emotions and that something we did is not causing them to age faster or to become unwell mentally, to become unwell physically. Everything we do is affecting that other person. And so that's something that I wanted to point out, because I think a lot of times we don't think about, I mean, I'm sure Melissa does because she's in that field. But when it's just like people that haven't gone through that training, and you don't think about how your actions, your words spoken can really affect the other person and their health and the way that they look. I mean, women can actually become haggard looking because of the way that they're treated by a man. And so if you want her to go out to feel good about herself, to feel confident, and I'm sure it goes both ways, I'm just speaking from a woman's perspective, or I want Kevin to go out and look his best, then I need to do what I can to help with that emotionally, and supporting and communicating and, doing my part. So.
Yeah, there is
Thanks for
such a
sharing that.
mind-body connection for sure, right? I think you're right. But then once again, right, if your wife, just because we were talking about you and your relationship, Jeremy, like it is her responsibility to also say like, well, you may be over it, but I'm still feeling pretty upset about this.
Yeah, she
Right?
does. She does. Yeah.
Yes, which is awesome, right? Because you're not expected to figure out what she's feeling. So checking in with each other, like, okay, I've kind of gotten over it, but you still sort of seem like you're having some big feelings. What's going on over there, right? Because we definitely want to give each other that opportunity, but that's why it's so important that we speak up for ourselves and take responsibility for our experience and our feelings. Right? Because yes, I'm older than Jen is. And yes, I don't particularly want to feel or look haggard. And I don't think my husband does either.
Don't defeat my skincare, okay? I'm
Right?
trying really hard, okay? I don't need more wrinkles.
It looks like it's working, but yeah, like our
thanks.
sleep and our relationship, right? I mean, I read the most interesting research little nugget the other day, and I posted it on LinkedIn, right? That a happy, healthy marriage can add 15 years to your life.
What about the unhappy one?
Yeah.
I didn't mention that.
Minus 15. Minus 15.
Minus 30.
Just
Minus-
don't minus.
probably.
I think that's good.
If you're unhappy, you end up self-destructing.
No, it doesn't minus, but you have 15 more years of unhappy life. That's all, which is worse.
So before we end the night, so this is the last thing we want to talk about. So we talk about Gen Z, right? And Troy shared with us these things right here, these devices, right? The phone and social media and all this stuff, right? And none of us here are really Gen Z people, but these phones play a big part in our day-to-day now, and it can affect our marriage, right? Because
Of course.
we do business on these devices. We're connecting with friends, and with the pandemic, it's all accelerated, right? So in your own personal life, has it affected your marriage at all? Because I know you see these drawings too pass around the internet where, two couples, they're looking at their phone at night and both turn apart from each other. And that happens in my own marriage, So
All the time.
Yep. So what are some things that you guys are implementing in your own marriage, and what are some things you can recommend?
Well, we try a no phone dinner thing, but that doesn't work very well. We probably revisit that. So I don't think it's a phone or something. If a marriage couple is not communicating, the phone is just one of the many before there were phones, there were other distractions. So get to the root cause. It's not just the phone. Yeah. That's my little short take.
Very good. Whether it was a book or a movie or Netflix
Exactly.
or the phone or right. Ooh, that was deep.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I think so too. It was
I
one
do.
of the wisest thing I heard from Jeremy for a long time.
Oh, that means I don't say much. Huh?
Yeah.
I means I never say
but
much.
it's really wise. It's really wise. I mean,
Speaking from experience.
Yes, I think that it is. I mean, in my experience, and even as I'm interviewing people for my book, designating some tech-free time, I think, is nice, right? So, even but sometimes it's a challenge, right? Like even if you go for a walk or a hike or, on an adventure, your phone is oftentimes your camera, right? So it's like, well, it's just right here. It's so tempting, right? Like,
Yeah.
but even saying, well, okay, I put my phone on airplane mode so that way, like I won't get the notifications and I won't see that, right? I could still use my camera, but I don't get pulled into things as often because I mean, technology, it's created in a way that it is addicting.
Yeah.
Right. So we can look at it for 1 minute and then 20 minutes has passed because we've fallen down the rabbit hole or the twilight zone or whatever you want to call it. But tech-free time seems like it is helpful. And I'm with you. We do our best to do the no phone at dinner. I happen to sound like the nag though, because I'll be like, no phones at dinner. No phones at dinner. Turn off your phone. We can eat. Both savor your food that I just cooked. Can we just savor it?
Yeah.
But it's we just keep doing our best in any given day, right? Like some days just look prettier than other days, right? But they're all experiences and we get to learn from them. But and we do try to be intentional, like what we watch as a family. We still do Friday night movie night, and
That's cool.
That's
so
awesome.
that way we're all together, cuddling on the couch, the dog, smelly dog, and all, right? Watching something that then we could all talk about later. How about you all? What do you do dealing with the phones and technology, especially with 4 kids?
Yeah. Well,
yeah,
Troy.
especially
Well,
before.
it's Lent right now, and every Lent we take a break from digital. So that's an interesting time when they go through that withdrawal. So from Ash Wednesday to Easter, no
Ooh.
streaming movies or social media consuming. We still, if you're producing content, that's okay, but just the consumption of it. And it's interesting. Our kids came home the other day and they didn't have technology, so they had to play a board game. And so they were playing cards and a board game. And it was just crazy. I've been out throwing the football around with my 2 boys this last week. None of that would have happened without technology. And I think that what Kevin pointed out, I'm on the other, Jeremy, I know what you're saying. I just think the power of the phone is just incredible, and it's the access that allows for men, pornography, for kids getting into social bullying and whatnot.
Yeah.
It's just there at the click of a button, and so for us, we don't have a problem. There are no phones at the table for dinner. I mean, that's not been a problem for us. And my wife and I, I grumble when she's on Candy Crush, right? Watching the Seahawks game. And I'm like dying over there. What are you doing? And she goes, because Seahawks always play close for some ridiculous reason, and so that's her way of coping. Right? I need to play to cope.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, but I'm the nag with the phones. I have a love-hate relationship with them. And I think that if you sit down when you're in the right frame of mind and just say, hey, I feel like the phones are a big part of our life. What can we do? And we created 4 phone contracts for our kids that they had to sign. They're not allowed they can't bring them in their bedroom. not because of data is showing that notifications are just as powerful as social media. Because when you're in deep work, if you get a text and it takes you out of that, it's like 20 minutes to get back into where you were, or if you're sleeping and you're not getting to REM. So there's also health benefits to policing your time on the phone that may affect wrinkles in your, whatever. Jennifer might know those stats more than I do.
Look.
The haggard look, yeah. But no, it's a constant battle. That's one of the mistakes we made is we gave phones to our kids at 10, and
this
hindsight, too young.
Just a quick share. I have a friend, quite a close friend. He has 4 kids as well. The oldest is about time to go into military service. That's about 18. His kids never had a phone. All this while, all 4 kids started with no phones, still no phones. I'm like, how do you do it? It is unimaginable, but he did it, and I think, I was very, very admirable that he did that. Yeah,
he needs to be a guest on your bottom.
Yeah,
that's a good idea. That's a good idea. More of his wife actually. Yeah, because she manages them, chauffeurs them around. So because I asked the question, then how do you get by? Your kids have no phone. Then the brilliant reply was, but their friends have phone. So if there's any emergency, they can borrow their friend's phone and call us. I'm like, that's true. So
it is true, right? Like I didn't have a car until graduate school, and people are like, "How'd you get around without a car until graduate school?"
You find a way. You find a way.
I had friends; they had a car, no problem. There's a bus.
Yeah.
They're friends. We all find a way, right? But Troy,
Exactly.
I think you're so right. Like the phone is just. It can be, as long as we're intentional, right? Like if we're saying, "Wow, I just need a break. I'm going to play Candy Crush right now." Right. And that's a great model for our kids too, to like say it once again. Don't let people guess what you're doing. Like let them know, like, actually, I'm just not in the mood to chat, or I'm not in the mood to do that. I'm tired. I'm just going to check my Instagram feed for a little while or whatever it is. But letting people know it's like, I don't like you, so I'm going to stare at my phone. That's not really what we're doing. So, because my husband will be like, "What are you doing over there?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm trying to figure out what to post on LinkedIn because I'm new and I have no idea what I'm doing." Right. And he's like, "Really? Do you need to be doing that right now?" And it's like, "Oh, good question. You know what? No, I don't need to be doing it right now." Right. So it's wow. We're all just learning how to deal with some of this stuff. Right.
No, I agree so much with Troy because I'm in the social media business, so day in and day out, it's a different machine. It's not like television, and it's not like radio. There has never been anything like it. But the internet, everything's right there. It's changing our thought process, what's real and what's fake, and even me, like I'm a marketer. Like I can see everything on the back end. Like I can retarget and manipulate people to trigger different things based on algorithms on the back end of all these social media things. The access I have on what you like, how much you make, what you ate last week through my data is crazy. And that's just me being a digital marketing agency. And can you imagine the people behind the solutions itself? The people who own LinkedIn, the people who own Facebook. And so, we're saying, hey, we need to be intentional. Well, these companies are intentional as well because they make money off these things. So you have a whole society and a whole generation. And it's actually kind of, I've been kind of on fire about this as well because it's been in my heart. Because it's like, I watch one of Troy, your speeches about suicide and all that stuff. So like Troy, I have a passion for young people and youth. And even some of the guys that work for me, they're in the Gen Z category, right? And the way they think has changed so much from when we're young, and there's so much potential. And you see, like, why are people committing suicide? Why are people feeling they're so talented, but why they can't value themselves? And you can't say, hey, it isn't social media or it isn't these devices. You know, it is playing an impact. It plays an impact even in my day to day. I feel it if me and Jen can go take a walk and both turn off our phone for just 20 minutes, the difference is huge. You start noticing, like, hey, the fresh air, what's going on around. You know, you aren't worrying about a notification or an email that comes along. So there's all these things, and I challenge everyone, like Troy said, just unplug, you know? And I make money off digital marketing. So, like, I make money off people being on these things. And it's crazy, though. If you can actually unplug for a week, it's almost like, you know, the Matrix back in the days, you know? It's like, oh, you start noticing stuff you don't even notice. You know, it's like we get so caught up in this digital world. But there is a world without it. And, like, I was talking to a business owner the other day, and, you know, it's funny because I consult people on digital marketing and being all in on these things. And then I was like, you know what? Maybe you should just don't do anything for a week and just unplug social media and stuff. And just remember, how did you build relationships before you had LinkedIn? Salespeople forget how to sell because they no longer know how to build relationships, and they fail. It's all automated bots. They don't know how to talk to you. These young people think they can just text you to sell you on $1,000 contract per month. It's not real, people. So we forget how to talk. We forget how to relate.
Yeah.
And you can't just go, oh, let's post content everywhere. Content's great, but can you talk to people? You know why people do business with me? I build relationships with them beyond digital.
Yep.
And I think we get in this facade. We're all caught up in, like, this is the way to do it. We get sold by these influencers. This is the only way, you know. If you don't, you're a dinosaur. But we forget, hey, you can take it from older generations and now take those things, talking to people, building relationship, picking up the phone, solving people's problems, communicating. Now bring that online and do the exact same thing. It's not rocket science. But
We need to be dinosaurs. We need to be dinosaurs in our marriages.
yeah, and for marriage too. Yep.
There you go with another one of those, Jeremy. Listen to you.
That
The
was a bomb.
one-liners.
That was a
Oh, thank you,
bomb.
thank you,
Yep.
thank you, thank you.
And also in our parenting, I think, you know, teaching our children that business still is picking up a phone and having a conversation or showing up and doing a face-to-face, because I know there's good in every single generation, but in dealing with some of the younger generations, we've had to contact them on Instagram. That's the only way you can get a hold of them. And it's just such a weird feeling for those of us who are used to the face-to-face or the phone calls, you know, and you can call them a million times and they won't pick up, and they won't answer a text message sometimes. But as soon as you Instagram them, you can reach them.
DM, Jen.
Yeah.
And just so you know, the Instagram is on their phone, so you know that we called 20 times, you know. So I mean, obviously we didn't call
Or
20 times.
Snapchat. Some of them are not on Instagram. They're on Snapchat, right? Like they're all the TikTok, Snapchat,
Or
all the
TikTok,
different
yes.
things. But, you know, it's back to, like, if we can model that in our marriages, though, having that tech-free time, have like them seeing you make authentic connections and having conversations. Like, we're not doing our kids any favors when they don't actually get to see people have real conversations.
Yep.
Right? They're not going to know how to be in conversation if we don't have respectful conversations. And I appreciate your viewpoint, Kevin, you know, because you are a social marketer, right? Like, you know how this works and you see the value in both.
Yep. And it comes back to, we got to model it at home, right? As parents, we got to communicate with our children, and, you know, in our marriage, we got to be models, you know, how our marriages affects them when what they see mom and dad do, you know. And so what's the best way to follow you, Troy, and then Melissa as well, for our audience tonight?
LinkedIn. All my social is at KNOW Troy. So if anybody wants to reach out, just that's the best way to do it.
And can you tell the audience, I started reading Troy's book too, so about
I need to
Troy's
get that.
book.
I need to get that, Troy.
Can you tell us a little about Spitfire?
Yes, it's a book about just self-identity and understanding who you are, what your giftings are, and just it asks you questions as you read. A lot of us can't afford a coach, and a lot of successful people have coaches in their life, speak in their life. So it's written in a way that it's real small, bite-sized chunks, asking you questions about your identity. And the title is "You Got It, Now Go Get It." The idea is that once you understand who you are, now go get your destiny. And just to, Jeremy, this is for you. A lot of times people wake up and they realize, oh, my spouse is an undertow, keeping me down from flying. Doesn't mean you give up on them. It doesn't mean you divorce them. And family members doesn't mean you don't go to holiday gatherings with them. They're your partner. And as you make your change, it might influence someone that you really care about, right? So the waking up doesn't mean you drop all of your family. You may drop some friends, but toxic people are bad. And so it's just this thing of who are you? Simon Sinek wrote a book called Start With Why.
Yeah, I read that one. Yep.
I disagree with it 100%. I think you start with who. Who are you? Before you get, so many of our young people know what they do. They know why they do it. Yet they don't know who they are, right? And so they're doing all this activity and boom, 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 boom. And it's like, wait a minute, who are you? You're on the wrong path. Do you know you're on the wrong path? So I once you know who you are, why do you do it is 100% important. It is very important. So that's what the book's about, is just discovering who you are. It's not a religious book. I can't hide my faith, though. So when you discover who you are and you look at yourself the way God looks at you as a masterpiece, you're talking about a combination that is just a winning one all throughout life. And you'll influence so many more people just by that, walking in that assurance of who you are in your identity.
I appreciate that, Troy. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Thanks.
What about you, Melissa?
So people can reach out on LinkedIn, message me, and also Instagram for sure. Melissa Wolak, I am there. You can even send me a DM. All announcements about my upcoming book.
I'm trying to listen. I'm trying to listen without looking at you. Wow, it's so attractive and seductive. Go ahead, Melissa.
I've got my snazzy microphone.
We just went there. We just went right in there. Deep water. Whoa.
I hope to do an audio book as well. So we'll see here. Who knows? So, and my book is I agree with Troy. Not everyone has a mentor or a therapist or a coach. And so my first book is, some of my male clients are like, "Where's our book?" And I'm like, "I'll get to it." But this first book is about, it's Nourish, an intentional mindset of creating a deeper, kinder relationship with yourself. And it's my stories as, working with clients and patients over the past 25 years, but also sharing other women's stories and really looking at how we do, right? How do we communicate, honor, and value our time and our energy? How do we connect with ourselves and the people we love and what matters? And how we can really create more joy and purpose in our lives, but feel comfortable in expressing ourselves in all the different ways. And so the book is for women and people who care about the women in their lives. Because if you really want to be a great husband, reading that book will give you a whole different understanding of where your wife is coming from. Not for you to fix it, but for you to be able to hold space and have an understanding that may be different than your perspective, right? To go, oh, that's the way you think. That's the expectation in the story you've been carrying and holding. No wonder you're exhausted, right? Like, let's get rid of that. So really trying to debunk some of the things that women are trained to believe and act under, right? We really want to update the female priority list. We really want to update everybody's priority list. And I think nourishing ourselves isn't just about having a drink at the end of the day or a bubble bath or a massage or a foot rub. It's so much more, right? So it's really taking care of our most important investment, and that's our mind, body, and heart and soul health.
That's good.
Awesome.
Now, this is awesome. This is a great conversation. And I think, none of us are experts in marriage, but I think we all agree that communication is key. And, hey, that's the person you chose to love and, hey, to spend forever with. And I love what Choi said, that he doesn't have option B in mind, and that's awesome. And hey, it's okay to be single as well. There's nothing wrong with that, and whatever floats your boat. And I think in life it's all about communication and building stronger relationships. So thank you for joining us tonight. And it's pretty cool because we maintained quite an audience tonight the whole time.
2 hours.
I know.
2 hours.
I just now noticed we spoke for 2 hours, and Melissa
God.
needs to feed her kids, and Troy is gonna be completely out of carbs, so he probably needs to go to bed. So
my husband did feed my daughter, so we did have a plan.
Yeah.
We did communicate before this happened.
Don't forget, we're super thankful to StreamYard for putting us, on all of these platforms and sponsoring us. So,
yep, being able to stream live. And so starting next week, we go into a series on just building your career. And
just need to warm up.
Yep. That's awesome. So we go talk about building careers, and we can start with self-branding, branding yourself, and different topics on, hey, how can you make a killer profile and for regards to getting that dream job. So well, thank you folks for being with us tonight. Thank you, Troy and Melissa, so much. So we look forward to having you guys come back again, I'm sure. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Troy. Thanks, Melissa.
Great talking to you.
Bye, guys.
all.
Bye.
thank you guys.